Hey there everyone, and welcome to DnD Horror Stories with DnD Doge. In today's first story, we have a tale of a female D&D player joining a game, only for the Dungeon Master to change her character to fit his nefarious means. To the post. My Gooner Dungeon Master turns my character into a sex toy. By Reddit user ThrowawayLife77. So this is a bit of a weird one. A couple of years ago, I agreed to join this game that my friend was in, as they'd recently lost a player and were looking for someone else to replace them. I was free at that time, and I wanted to play. So I agreed, and after speaking briefly with the DM, everything seemed fine. Now, a very important thing to note here. At the time of me joining this campaign, I was 17 years old. My friend was 19, and the others who I didn't know were around 19 to 24, with the DM being 26. I at no point hid my age, and we checked with everybody that it would be okay for me to join, and that the campaign would be suitable for me to be in. When it came to making my character, I read through the lore that the DM provided, and decided that I wanted to play a half-drow, as there was a faction composed of drow outcasts that she would fit in well with. People who, like her, didn't typically fit into the typical society. She was going to be an agent of this faction, sent to the city the campaign was in, working against a corrupt drow businesswoman who was attempting to spread her influence in the city. Although the DM initially allowed this, he came back 2 days before the first session I was supposed to be in, and said I had to make a new backstory. The faction did not allow, quote, half-breeds, he said, even though he said it was fine earlier, and he told me to make something else. I tried to stick vaguely close to what I wanted originally, and now my character had lost her parents after the drow businesswoman, and now also Loan Shark, had sent her thugs to beat them down for money, going too far and killing them. And my character was there for revenge. This also got approved and then vetoed hours before the session, and I was given a new backstory by the DM to use. My character lived in a small village, and when she was young, her village was attacked. Everyone was either killed or rounded up as a survivor and taken into slavery by bandits. At the bandit camp, my character was made to watch as her mother and sister were essayed by the bandits and then sold off, with my character being kept as a special gift. Well, that certainly is a far cry from what OP originally wanted her backstory to be, and not to mention, kind of disgusting. When a knight came across the bandit group, he slaughtered them all, and when my character thought she was saved, he revealed he was actually a servant of a lord in the city, here to collect her. This lord was the man that the bandits worked for, and he had them killed to cover his tracks. My character is brought to him and branded as his slave. She is forced to grow up as his servant, and also his, quote, companion. She quickly forgave him for forcing himself on her when she was quite underage, and came to love him because it actually felt good. Well, that's really effed up. In the present, the party are looking into something that the Lord is associated with, so he sends my character, his servant, who I was directed to play as loyal and in love with him, to infiltrate the party as a spy and protect him. So the DM has basically taken all autonomy away from OP in regards to her backstory and how she should play her character. So he's basically making her a player NPC, likely for his own self-gratification. I did not write any of that backstory myself. I did not want to play that twisted version of my character, but I was told that it was either that or I wasn't allowed to play. The DM got into a voice call with me, and even got my friend into it as well, where they both pressured me into agreeing and playing this character. Well, some friend this person turned out to be. I would have taken option 1 at this point, and just not playing this game. Very shortly after, the session begins, and I realize that something is odd about my character sheet. My items have been changed, and my character's name has been changed as well. Her name was Avaleshar, and it had been changed to Ash. I changed it back, thinking that maybe the DM had just shortened it, but all my items and spells were still different. At the end of my first session with the group, the DM berated me before the rest of the group for my quote, poor behavior. He said I was being rude, unfriendly, and I was constantly trying to gaslight the other players, and that if I did not get my act together, there would be serious repercussions. A reminder, I'm 17. This is a 26-year-old man, and the rest of the people are men, mostly in their early 20s, all laughing at me. I was only playing the character as I was coached. I don't know how I was gaslighting people. Well, OP likely wasn't. It sounds like the gaslighting is coming from them. I wanted to drop out immediately, but my friend guilt-tripped me into continuing to play with the group. It was stupid, and I shouldn't have stayed, but I wanted to please this guy, and it was stupid. Less that's said about him, the better. Yeah, this quote-unquote friend doesn't really sound like a friend at all. The next session was even worse than the first. Once again, my character's name, equipment, and spells had all been changed again. This time though, her character art had been changed as well. Avaleshar was a scrawny girl, choppy hair that she cut herself with a dagger, and a cocky smirk. She didn't have big proportions that people would find attractive. She would be considered below average, talked a big game, maybe a little too big, and could slip into places that most people couldn't. Yet my token was completely different. The DM, between sessions, maybe even before the first session, had commissioned art of my character and essentially turned her into a sex doll. Blown up lips, bedroom eyes, long silky hair, massive breasts. Her armor was completely gone, and instead, she had what I can only call a stripper dress and heels. Yeah, it's starting to sound like the only reason they let OP join the game was to serve as an outlet for them to horny roleplay with. At this point, it seems like they're only messing with her just to see what they can get away with. This session, the other party members also started hitting on me in and out of character. I left the session at the end, blocked everyone, and have repeatedly blocked my friend, who kept making new accounts to try and talk to me. It was incredibly gross and disgusting. I've never felt so uncomfortable before. I've been extremely picky about my D&D games since then. If you have a gut feeling about a group, just follow it. Yeah, OP made the right decision in the end there. These players definitely just invited her in order to have an outlet to horny roleplay with, which is really disgusting since she was 17 and they were in their mid to late 20s. That, and they probably put her friend up to getting her into the game, especially seeing how the DM and her friend got onto a voice call and basically twisted her arm into playing that character. It is good to hear that OP did at least take this as a learning experience, and now makes sure that there is no BS with any campaign she joins, not letting anyone walk all over her like she did with this campaign. And OP does make a great point. If you ever find yourself in a campaign that you're uncomfortable with, just trust your gut and get out of there. So here's hoping that she has plenty of great campaigns in the future, with people that she can actually consider to be friends. I think we could use some Alice after that story. She's such a little sweetie, and who wouldn't drop a like on the video for that? But with that, let's get to the next story, where a previously agreed to party dynamic leads to a dungeon master removing a player's character out of nowhere. To the post. Dungeon Master conspired with another player to have my character killed off-screen. By Reddit user, Who Took My Name. So, back some years ago, I went to one of my friends' houses to start a new campaign of D&D with our regular group after having finished a campaign in a different game. We gathered and spent hours crafting our characters. My character was a deep gnome warlock. His backstory included a bit about how he was used as a slave in a drow household and escaped to the surface with the help and support of his patron. Understandably, this character did not like drow. I made my character, his backstory, and bias all known multiple times during the character process to both the DM and the other players. One of the other players didn't necessarily hide the fact, but did not announce, "I'm making a drow." Honestly, I was still cool with this. I thought it would be a good opportunity to roleplay my character, overcoming his prejudice and realizing that not all drow were evil. As we started, this other player assured us that this was an okay dynamic for our characters. At no time was I ever told that I took it too far or to tone anything down. My character would simply mumble under his breath and generally be distrustful of this drow character. Well, apparently, this other player took my in-game roleplay personally, and during a break, about 3 hours into the first actual session, took the Dungeon Master into a bedroom in the back and had a conversation. Once we all came back and sat down, I was told, "Make a new character. Your character was abducted while he was sleeping and will not be coming back." I would later find out about all this, that he was offended, and that they discussed just killing my character off screen instead of talking to me at all. So I made another character, which turned out to be a joke character. My heart just wasn't in it. I never went back and gamed with that group again after we gamed together for like 15 years. I tried a few times to find a new group, but nothing's really worked out so far. I'm still a little hopeful though. Well, that is kinda messed up. OP had already talked to the other player and the DM about this character dynamic, and how they could roleplay this, with the other player that was playing the drow agreeing to it. To change your mind mid-session, and then to get the DM to do away with OP's character was really messed up, and I can understand how OP's heart just wasn't into the game after that. I mean, the DM should have at least talked to OP and see if they could just change that aspect of OP's character, not just come up with a stupid reason why the character would disappear. So I can understand why OP did not want to play with that group anymore, and here's hoping that they can find another group to play with soon. Now, before we get to the following stories, I just have to give a quick thank you to Mike the Birdman for donating $20 via Ko-Fi and saying, "Kitty treat time, make it rain." Which I have to say, don't worry. I'll make sure they get some extra treats tonight. And another thank you to Ko-Fi donator Sandmaster Brian for donating another $20 and saying, "Here's some cash for some cough medicine." Also, PP, if you're reading this, feel free to ruin my life. Which, again, the PP is in reference to this video. And I did have a bit of a cold while reading that. Plus, that story really tickled my funny bone. So thank you again for your donations. They are appreciated, but never expected. But with that, let's get to a story in which a player thinks they should get a special weapon over another player, simply because their character is gay. To the post. Apparently, you can't carry on the legacy of a gay character if you happen to be playing a straight character. By Reddit user SwimmingUse9700. This happened more than a year ago. We were a table of 5, including the DM, but the only people relevant to this are me and Lucy. We had been playing a campaign for a few months. I had kinda disliked Lucy from the start because she played a lot differently than I was used to, or the way I liked. She needed to flirt with every NPC, to the point where even the DM had told her that it got really annoying and made everyone feel awkward. So, yet another player that wanted to use Dungeons & Dragons as a vessel to be horny. Imagine my shock. I was playing a paladin of Bahamut, and our party met an NPC. He used to be a famous paladin himself, but had lost his faith and had settled with his husband in a village. Lucy got really excited, knowing that the characters were gay, and kept asking stuff like if they kissed each other goodbye, or flirted with each other in front of the party. The DM told her that both of them were rather older guys and seemed rather reserved in displaying public affection, though she didn't stop making remarks about them kissing, etc., even after that. So she also wanted to make the game into some sort of yaoi fantasy that she could observe. Why do so many people want to make their D&D games so sexual? My character was a paladin, and the ex-paladin became a mentor for my character. Over the next few sessions, I took levels and feats as a fighter to show how he was training me, while he also got his faith back. He even traveled with us for a mission where we were surrounded, which the DM had clearly made as an unbeatable situation. The ex-paladin saved us by allowing us to escape, and when we returned to the spot later, we found his dead body, which could not be resurrected. It was obvious that the DM had planned for the NPC to die to introduce the villain. We took his body back to his husband, where my character had a talk with him, saying sorry, while he said that I shouldn't be sorry, and that his husband had always felt lost after having given up his faith, and that I helped him gain it back. He then gave me the sword that used to belong to the paladin, and told me to carry on his legacy. Lucy had a problem with this, because according to her, I shouldn't have gotten the sword, and that it felt wrong because my character was straight while the ex-paladin was gay, and that it felt like the DM was trying to erase gay characters. She said how only her character in the party was queer, and that she should have gotten the sword instead. That this felt like a, quote, bury your gays trope to her, as the DM rarely introduced gay characters. We had an argument, but the DM calmed us both down, though I still get pissed thinking about how annoying she was. Well, that was kinda dumb. Why would it matter if the ex-paladin was gay when his husband gave OP's character the sword? I mean, OP's character was the one training under the ex-paladin, so it would make more sense for his husband to give OP's character the sword, especially since OP was also a paladin. It would be stupid to have that character be like, "Oh, you're gay too? You deserve this sword because gay." And as far as Lucy accusing the DM of trying to erase gay characters, well, for one, he was letting Lucy play as one, and the husband was still alive. Just because a character is gay does not give them plot armor. And besides, the DM had the ex-paladin have an arc where he got his faith back and heroically gave his life to save the party. And I think that is pretty badass for a character to do, gay or not. It just sounds to me that Lucy was getting jealous that OP got some spotlight time and got a new weapon when she didn't. Though at least the DM didn't stand for that type of thing, and told her to stop arguing over something so stupid. Though, I wonder if OP is still playing with Lucy, as they said they didn't like her playstyle to begin with. Anyway, let's move on to the next post, where a dungeon master is having a bit of an issue with getting their husband into their Dungeons & Dragons game. To the post. My husband thinks he's above the rules because I'm the DM. By Reddit user richad6043. Okay, I need to vent and ask for advice because this is so weirdly specific and I'm stuck. My husband and I have been playing D&D with friends for a year. I'm the DM and he's a first-time player. At first, it was cute, like he'd forget his character sheet, zone out during NPC chats, and I would gently remind him, "You know, your paladin can literally heal people, remember? I even kept his sheet on my desk so he wouldn't lose it. It was no biggie. He's my spouse. I wanted him to have fun. But here's where it gets messy. Lately, he's been low-key mad that I, quote, don't support him enough. Which, you know, it's been a year. I can't spoon-feed you plot hooks forever. Plus, I'm prepping the next story arc and trying to balance the whole group. The real fight started when he got salty about consequences, like taking damage in combat, getting penalties for reckless moves. All normal D&D stuff, right? He would joke, "Can't you be nicer to me?" And I would say, "Honey, the dragon doesn't really care that we're married." Now he's skipping sessions. To be real, he had a lot of work to do, but also got a new fixation on a war video game. But that's all a new story. So our campaign is frozen because the story needs the whole party. And in the meantime, he dropped this gem. "It's not your fault I'm too dumb for this." I felt awful, and he said there was no harm in it. Also, he said he likes playing and wants to continue, but I can't play for him. I have a whole world to play. Our friends are stuck, and I'm torn between am I a bad DM and are we fighting over D&D? I don't know. Please help. Man, that does sound like a rough spot. But it is a reality that D&D isn't for everyone. And when you're a DM, you kinda need all of your players to be invested enough to want to play the game. It just sounds to me like OP's husband just really isn't that much into D&D, especially if he had never taken the effort to learn the rules, or even his character. And after playing for over a year, it either will click or it won't. My advice would be to have a talk with him, and let him know how much the game means to OP. Then list all the issues presented in this post. After that, then make a decision on whether or not he wants to take initiative, no pun intended, and really try at the game. If not, then I don't see any harm in OP continuing the game with the other players, and just writing OP's husband's character out. I mean, there is nothing wrong with a couple having different hobbies with other people. Though, those are just my thoughts on this. What advice would you give OP in this situation? But with that, let's move on to today's final story, where a dungeon master discovers that one of their players has been cheating during their Dungeons & Dragons games. To the post. Player uses weighted dice after a failed bribery attempt. By Reddit user UndercoverGM1. I have a long history of recruiting players from the internet for my in-house game. You get the occasional odd duck, and this guy was on par with the others I've had. We'll call the player in question Player X. We finished the whole campaign with Player X, during which he kept tiptoeing right up to the line of decency and poking it rather than fully crossing it. At the same time, a casual observer of the game noted that he rolled extremely well every time they observed the game, and that he would get multiple natural 20s in a short span. A little suspicious, we went on to Campaign 2. We hold a Session 0 to go over homebrew rolls and such. One of the slides I had pre-released to the players was determining ability scores. I had, wanting to keep it light, listed bribery as an option. Player X saw this and turned up with cash, having not realized it might be a joke, and he had to be talked down. I end up apologizing profusely. After all, some people are more literal than others, and it was an honest misunderstanding. We decide on a group-rolled array to be rolled later. A couple weeks pass, and we play a D&D one-shot. At the end of the night, Player X wants to do the roll. We roll, and Player X goes first, and gets an 18, but doesn't celebrate. In fact, he says nothing. So I go over to his rolling tray and celebrate for him. The night ends, but not before Player X says two things that seemed a little weird. "These are the dice I pull out to play Yahtzee." And, "I could have just given you $200 a month ago." It's not until the next morning that I start getting suspicious. What he said was weird. That he brought special dice on a night when he had his normal dice was strange. What got me though is, who doesn't celebrate rolling a perfect ability score? On a hunch, I googled weighted dice, and the exact set that he used came up. 3 black dice, slightly larger than the average ones, with silver white pips. After a week of second-guessing myself and feeling weirdly paranoid, I confronted him. I had to press him, but he did admit to using weighted dice, but never apologizes, never explains himself, never lets me know if it was the first time or not. Though, on the upside, it's really easy to let players go in between campaigns. Yeah, that is a bit messed up. I swear, I will never understand why people want to cheat in tabletop RPGs like D&D. I mean, it's the randomness of the dice and reacting in character that helps make the stories of this hobby unique. Though, I will say that the fact that this player took a joke slide about bribing the DM for good ability scores so literally makes me think that he might have some sort of neurodivergence. But even then, that is no excuse for cheating. That, mixed with the fact that OP can't be sure if this player has cheated in the past without being caught, makes me understand why OP wanted to kick him before this newest campaign. Though, if I'm being real, the chances that he was cheating are probably pretty high, especially with OP's friend observing the game before and stating that it was odd that this player was rolling so well all the time. But thankfully, like OP said, it is easier to kick a player out before a campaign, rather than during one. But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and hope that your games remain horror story free. Until next time.